Imagine Roman legions marching with clanking steam-powered siege towers. Picture ancient Assyrians storing entire libraries, sounds and all, on singing stones. Consider a world where Renaissance alchemists didn't chase gold, but unlocked supermaterials that reshaped cities into metallic wonders. These aren't just fever dreams, they're glimpses into realities where technology took a sharp, baffling turn, leaving our own timeline looking almost predictable. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew about progress. Number 10. The Victorian Pneumatic Web. Imagine strolling through Victorian London. Horse-drawn omnibuses clatter on cobblestones, gas lamps flicker to life at dusk. But there's another sound, a constant soft whoosh, a sighing breath that seems to emanate from the very buildings themselves. This isn't the wind. It's the sound of the great pneumatic web, the city's beating heart of communication and delivery. In this world, Samuel Morse's telegraph was a marvel. Yes, but for the hustle and bustle of city life, for getting a message from your solicitor in Holborn to your broker in the city, or sending a small, urgent parcel across town, nothing beat the tubes. It all started quite simply, with basic pneumatic systems for sending documents within large office buildings or banks. But then, visionaries, or perhaps just incredibly ambitious city planners, saw the potential. Why stop at one building? Why not link them all? And so, the digging began. Beneath the streets, a hidden circulatory system of brass and iron pipes was laid, ranging from a few inches in diameter for swift personal notes to larger conduits capable of carrying packages, books, even small, specially designed containers for, say, a lunchtime pie sent hot from a particular bakery. These pipes, polished smooth on the inside, formed a complex subterranean network, an unseen river of information and goods flowing beneath the city's feet. Central to this network were the grand pumping stations, magnificent Victorian edifices of brick and iron, their coal-fired steam engines thrumming day and night, their great pistons driving enormous fans that maintained the precise air pressures needed to whisk capsules along at astonishing speeds. To send something, you'd visit a local pneumatic office, often as grand as a small railway station, with polished mahogany counters and uniformed clerks. Here, attendants in smart uniforms would take your message or parcel, place it in a standardized felt-lined canister made of vulcanized rubber or tin, note its destination on an attached docket, and with a satisfying funk hiss, load it into the appropriate dispatch tube. A series of intricate switching stations, marvels of mechanical engineering, sometimes semi-automated with clever geared logic gates, and often run by highly skilled web sorters, would direct your canister through the maze of pipes to its destination, sometimes miles away, in mere minutes. The whoosh of its passage would be a familiar sound in buildings connected to the web. The impact on daily life was immense. Businesses thrived on the rapid exchange of contracts, orders, and financial instruments. Stockbrokers could react to market shifts almost instantly. Newspapers could receive late-breaking dispatches from reporters across the city and have them typeset and on the presses in record time. For the average Londoner, it meant handwritten notes could be exchanged with friends and family with a speed that email users today might recognize. Invitations, airspace, shopping orders, even billets, zipped beneath the city streets. The iconic red pillar boxes of our timeline still existed for traditional mail carried by postmen. But for anything urgent within the city, the tubes were king. Imagine receiving a small birthday cake still warm from a relative across town, delivered via tube, and a canister craftsman always seeking new designs for lighter, more aerodynamic, or specialized capsules. Architecture adapted with new buildings, incorporating dedicated tube rooms and often beautifully ornamented access points in their foyers. The city felt more connected, faster, The constant subterranean hum and the occasional sigh from a wall vent, a reminder of the information and goods flowing just out of sight. The electric telegraph handled the long-distance messages between cities and continents, but the Victorian pneumatic web was the true pulse of the metropolis, a bafflingly complex mechanical marvel that made the city breathe with a hidden windy life. Some even spoke of future passenger tubes, though that remained a distant, perhaps unsettling dream for most. Number 9. The Song Dynasty's Harmonic Resonance Builders. Journey back to Song Dynasty, China, a period known for its artistic achievements and burgeoning science. But in this alternate current of history, their mastery of gunpowder took an entirely different path. While explosive force was understood, it was the vibrational, the resonant power of controlled chemical reactions that captivated their greatest minds. Instead of cannons and bombs becoming the primary focus, Song engineers developed harmonic resonance emitters. These were not weapons of crude destruction in the way we think of them, but tools of incredible constructive and sometimes subtly destructive power. The core technology involved precisely mixed chemical compounds, ignited in specially designed chambers made of bell metal alloys and reinforced ceramics. These chambers were shaped to direct and amplify sonic frequencies. The resulting controlled detonations produced intense, focused sound waves, vibrations so powerful they could manipulate matter. Early applications were in construction. Imagine building sites without the clang of 1,000 hammers. Instead, you'd hear deep, resonant hums and precisely pitched tones as harmonic emitters were used to compact earth for foundations to an incredible density. Other emitters, tuned to different frequencies, could carefully shape stone flaking away material with sonic precision far finer than any chisel, or even encourage certain crystalline structures to bind more strongly in their mortar and ceramics. Grand public works, city walls, canals, and even pagodas were erected with a speed and to a scale previously unimaginable. Structures built using these harmonic techniques were known for their incredible durability and strange, almost organic-looking joins where stone seemed to flow into stone. The resonance architects became a new, highly respected profession, a blend of engineer, materials, scientist, and musician, for they had to understand the resonant frequencies of different materials and how to combine sonic forces. Their scores complex charts of frequencies and durations were as vital as any blueprint. In warfare, the applications were equally baffling. While some emitters were designed to shatter enemy siege engines or fortifications with overwhelming resonant force, others were more insidious. Discordance fields could be generated that would disorient enemy troops, induce nausea, or even cause metal weapons and armor to vibrate uncomfortably or destructively. Imagine ranks of soldiers brought to their knees not by arrows or blades, but by an unbearable silent pressure in their bones and a disorienting thrum in the air. Fortifications were designed with sound-dampening materials and complex geometries to diffuse or redirect harmonic attacks. Some tales even speak of sonic weavers, who could use arrays of smaller emitters to create localized vibrational patterns that could subtly alter weather, dispersing fog or perhaps even encouraging rain, though these accounts are harder to verify. The societal impact was profound. Cities were quieter in some ways, less hammering, yet filled with new, strange hums and tones from construction or civic applications. The development of metallurgy focused on alloys that could withstand or generate specific vibrations. Musical theory and acoustics became sciences of paramount importance, influencing art, medicine, therapeutic resonance, and philosophy. The very understanding of the universe became intertwined with concepts of vibration and harmony. This China didn't just build with sound. It began to think in sound, a civilization whose technological soundtrack was unlike anything our world has ever heard. The sight of a construction crew meticulously tuning a new wall with their emitters, their faces wrapped in concentration as they listened for the perfect resonant bond, would be a truly baffling spectacle. Number 8. Edison's living light systems. In our history, Thomas Edison is synonymous with the incandescent light bulb, a filament glowing hot in a vacuum. What if his relentless experimentation took a detour, a sharp turn into the realm of the biological? Imagine a late 19th and early 20th century where cities and homes weren't lit by the harsh glare of electric filaments, but by the soft ethereal glow of living light. In this alternate timeline, Edison, perhaps inspired by bioluminescent fungi or fireflies, or driven by a different understanding of electrical phenomena, didn't perfect the hot wire in a bowl. Instead, he and his rivals pioneered and mass-produced self-sustaining bioluminescent organisms or symbiotic bioelectrical cells for illumination. The most common form became the lumen lichen, a specially cultivated symbiotic culture of fungi and algae housed in elegant glass globes or panels. These lichens, when fed a nutrient paste and exposed to a mild electrical current, far less than needed for incandescence, would emit a steady, cool light in various hues, from soft greens and blues to warm yellows. Homes had light gardens or built-in wall panels where these lumen lichens thrive. The light was gentle, diffuse, and often subtly shifted in intensity, giving rooms an organic, almost breathing air. There were no harsh shadows, only soft gradations of light. Power grids, as we know them, developed very differently. Instead of massive generating stations pumping high voltages for power-hungry bulbs, a more decentralized system emerged. Homes might have small voltaic piles or improved Leyden jars, perhaps even early forms of earth batteries drawing telluric currents to provide the minimal stimulus needed for the lumen lichens. Some systems were even fed with specific organic compounds that the organisms consumed to produce light, almost like tending a very low-maintenance luminous plant. Light keepers became a common household task, ensuring the nutrient levels were right and the glass casings clean. Street lighting involved larger installations. Lumen trees were great globes of glowing lichen hung from ornate ironwork, casting a gentle, almost magical light on city streets. The smell of ozone near these public lights was replaced by a faint, earthy, or sometimes slightly sweet aroma from the bioluminescent cultures. Imagine public parks where pathways were lined with glowing mosses, or building facades adorned with shimmering panels of light-producing organisms, shifting in color with the time of day or even in response to atmospheric changes. The scientific and industrial implications were vast. Organic chemistry and microbiology became leading fields much earlier. The search for new, brighter, or different-colored bioluminescent species drove exploration into remote jungles and deep oceans. Instead of focusing on tungsten filaments and vacuum pumps, laboratories were filled with petri dishes, nutrient solutions, and genetic hybridization experiments, albeit primitive by our standards. Bioelectricians were the experts, understanding how to cultivate, install, and maintain these living light systems. There were, of course, challenges. Cultures could become sick or dim, requiring replacement or rejuvenation. But the trade-off was a world bathed in a softer, more natural-feeling light. A world where electricity was less about brute force and more about gentle coaxing of life itself. The absence of the familiar hot bulb and the presence of these quietly glowing, living illuminations would be the first and most baffling sign that you'd stepped into a different kind of modern age. Number 7. Mesoamerica's obsidian-geared road trains. When we think of pre-Columbian Mesoamerican civilizations, like the Maya, Aztec, or Inca, the wheel is often noted for its absence in practical transport, despite its use in toys or spindle whorls. Now picture a world where this changed dramatically. Not only did they adopt the wheel for transport, but they developed it with a unique technological signature, intricate gear systems crafted from meticulously worked obsidian and other hard stones, leading to sophisticated road trains. These weren't powered by engines, but by organized teams of human labor, or sometimes specially bred pack animals, pulling multi-segmented wheeled platforms over remarkably well-engineered causeways and roads. Key innovation wasn't just the wheel itself, but the bafflingly advanced understanding of mechanical advantage through gearing. Mesoamerican engineers, already masters of stonework, applied their skills to shaping incredibly precise, interlocking obsidian gears. Obsidian, while brittle, can hold an extremely sharp and durable edge, and when ground and polished with immense patience, could form surprisingly effective gear teeth. These gear systems, housed in sturdy wooden frames, allowed for the transmission of force, enabling smaller inputs of power to move much larger loads. Imagine a long articulated train of perhaps 5 to 10 wheeled carts, all linked and guided with a central gearing mechanism near the front that distributed the pulling force from a team of 20 or 30 individuals. Their roads were different too. Not just flattened earth, but often paved with smooth flagstones or a type of early concrete, with dedicated gear tracks, slightly grooved channels designed to guide the main drive wheels of these road trains and reduce friction. The construction of these vast road networks, connecting cities and resource centers across challenging terrain, became a monumental undertaking testament to this unique technological path. These weren't just paths. They were arteries for a new kind of commerce and military logistics. The impact on these civilizations was the movement of goods, maize, stone for building, luxury items, tribute, became vastly more efficient. Cities could grow larger, supported by a more reliable flow of resources from further afield. Armies could be supplied and moved with greater speed, altering the nature of warfare and political control in the region. The sight of these obsidian-geared road trains, gleaming darkly in the sun, with their crews chanting rhythmically as they hauled precious cargo, would have been awe-inspiring. Clicking and grinding of the stone gears, a sound unique to this civilization, would echo along the great trade routes. Specialized guilds of gearwrights and roadmasters would have emerged, holding immense knowledge and prestige. The mathematics required to design and calculate gear ratios for different loads and terrains would have spurred specific branches of Mesoamerican science. While they lacked advanced metallurgy for metal gears as Europe would later develop, their mastery of stone allowed them to leapfrog into a complex mechanical age all their own. The absence of the familiar horse-drawn cart or simple ox-drawn wagon, replaced by these sophisticated, human-powered, or sometimes animal-assisted, obsidian-geared land leviathans, would be a profound and baffling divergence for any visitor from our timeline, a testament to ingenuity taking an unexpected glassy-toothed turn. Number 6. The Age of Electric Sail and Copper Leviathans. The age of discovery in our timeline was powered by wind, in canvas sails, and the courage of mariners. But what if a lost piece of ancient knowledge, like the principles behind the Baghdad battery, was rediscovered and understood in Europe around the 15th or 16th century? Imagine an age of sail that was also subtly an age of early electrochemistry, leading to electric sail ships and copper leviathans patrolling the oceans. This wasn't about replacing sails entirely, but augmenting them and adding entirely new baffling capabilities to seafaring vessels. The divergence point is the re-emergence and practical application of galvanic principles. Scholars and early scientists, perhaps tinkering with recovered ancient artifacts or through novel experiments, stumbled upon the ability to generate sustained electrical currents using dissimilar metals and electrolytes, essentially. These voltaic piles, as they might be called, constructed from stacks of copper and zinc plates, separated by brine-soaked cloth or paste, would be bulky and require constant maintenance, but they would produce a tangible electric force. On board ships, these massive battery stacks, often housed deep in the hull for stability and protection, would be the heart of the new technology. One key application was a rudimentary form of electric propulsion. Large, paddle wheel-like structures, or perhaps early screw propellers, made of wood and driven by primitive electric motors, designs derived from early experiments with electromagnetism, could supplement sail power. This would allow ships to maneuver in calms, navigate tricky harbor entrances against the wind, or gain a crucial speed advantage in naval engagements. The sight of a galleon moving slowly but steadily with its sails furled, a faint hum emanating from within, would be an astonishing spectacle. Another significant development was galvanic protection, and even offense. Hulls were often sheathed in copper, not just to deter shipworms, but as part of a larger electrical system. It was discovered that passing a current through the hull could further inhibit marine growth or even create a shocking field around the ship. Imagine enemy boarders recoiling as they try to grasp a handrail, or small attacking craft finding their approach met with an unseen, tingling barrier in the water. Specialized electro-alchemists, or galvanic engineers, would be vital crew members, responsible for maintaining the batteries, checking the circuitry, likely thick copper wires insulated with gutta percha or tarred canvas, and deploying the ship's electrical capabilities. Navigation, all highly sensitive galvanometers, perhaps using magnetized needles deflected by Earth's currents or the ship's own electrical field, could offer new navigational aids alongside the astrolabe and compass. Signal lamps powered by these shipboard batteries could be far brighter and more reliable than oil lanterns, allowing for complex signaling at greater distances day or night. Quest for better battery materials, more efficient metals, longer-lasting electrolytes would drive new avenues of trade and research. The ships themselves would look subtly different. More copper sheathing, perhaps, strange protrusions or retractable electrode arrays, and the distinct smell of ozone and chemicals from the battery decks. Naval tactics would evolve, with commanders learning to use their limited electrical power strategically. This age of discovery wouldn't just be about mapping the globe, it would be about mastering a new, mysterious force, sending copper leviathans buzzing faintly across the oceans, their electrically augmented sails carrying them into a very different future. Number 5. The alchemists transmuted steel cities. The Renaissance, a flowering of arts and sciences. In our world, alchemy was a pursuit often shrouded in mysticism, its quest for gold, largely a dead end. But in this alternate reality, while the dream of turning lead into gold remained elusive, Renaissance alchemists in, say, the Italian city-states stumbled upon something almost as valuable, practical, repeatable methods for transmuting common metals into entirely new alloys with extrasmate common metals. This wasn't magic, but a different path of early chemistry and metallurgy, perhaps sparked by a misinterpreted ancient text or a lucky experimental accident that was correctly observed in Praecote. They didn't make gold, but they made orichalcum novum, aetherium steel, or moon silver, metals that were incredibly light yet strong, resistant to rust, or capable of holding an edge like no earthly steel. The impact on cities like Florence, Venice, or Milan was visually stunning and structurally revolutionary. As the secrets of these transmuted steels spread or were jealously guarded by city-states, architecture began to change. Buildings could soar to new heights, not as bulky stone masses, but as slender glittering towers and graceful arches made possible by the superior strength to weight ratio of these new alloys. Imagine bridges spanning wider rivers with breathtaking delicacy, their filigree structures gleaming in the sun. Balconies, window frames, and decorative elements once laboriously carved from stone or cast in heavy bronze, were now wrought from these new, lighter, more durable metals, allowing for unprecedented intricacy and artistry. Cityscapes took on a metallic sheen. Domes might be clad in a rust-proof, sky-blue-tinted celestium, while fortified walls could be reinforced with plates of incredibly resilient adamantine iron capable of deflecting cannonballs that would shatter mere stone. Artisans and engineers, the new metallo-alchemists, became the rock stars of this era. Their workshops, filled with strange bubbling concoctions, specialized furnaces, and the tang of unusual chemicals, were powerhouses of innovation. They didn't just produce raw materials. They crafted finished goods from impossibly sharp and long-lasting swords and tools to intricate clockwork mechanisms made from wear-resistant alloys, pushing the boundaries of mechanical engineering. Daily life was touched in countless ways. Cooking pots that never tarnished and heated with uncanny efficiency, personal adornments of shimmering, lightweight metals in colors never before seen, and even musical instruments with unique resonant qualities, all emerged from the alchemists' forges. The very feel of the city changed. The clang of traditional blacksmiths was augmented by the hiss and crackle of the alchemical furnaces and the precise tapping of artisans working these exotic materials. Of course, this new knowledge was a source of immense power and rivalry. City-states vied for the best alchemists, guarded their secrets fiercely, and equipped their armies with superior weapons and armor made from these transmuted metals. The balance of power in Europe, and perhaps the world, began to shift based on who controlled the rarest alchemical recipes. This wasn't just a renaissance of art and philosophy. It was a renaissance of material science, one that bypassed the slower, more conventional development of metallurgy seen in our timeline, leading to cities that shimmered with an almost fantastical metallic beauty, a baffling testament to alchemy's unexpected triumph. Number 4. The Great Sky Kelp Forest. The dream of flight captivated humanity for centuries. In our world, it was the hot air balloon, then the hydrogen airship, and finally the fixed-wing aircraft that conquered the skies. But in a particularly baffling divergence, imagine a world where sustained, large-scale air travel relied not on manufactured gases or aerodynamic lift, but on massive, cultivated, lighter-than-air organisms, the sky kelp. This wasn't about small, blimp-like creatures. It was about cultivating entire floating ecosystems, vast, dirigible-like life forms, to serve as the buoyant hearts of aerial fleets. The discovery, or perhaps careful cultivation and genetic selection over generations of a unique species of colossal gas-filled flora, or perhaps a colonial organism like a siphonophore, is central to this timeline. These sky kelps naturally produce and store lifting gases, possibly hydrogen or methane, within enormous, multi-chambered biological sacs. They grow to incredible sizes, hundreds of feet long, resembling immense, translucent greenish gold fronds or lobes, trailing long, filamentous tendrils. Sky farmers or aeroculturists would tend to these floating behemoths in vast aerial nurseries, perhaps anchored by immensely long tethers or slowly drifting in designated atmospheric zones, feeding them nutrient mists and carefully managing their growth and gas production. Airships, in this world, were not just mechanical constructs, but hybrid biomechanical entities. A lightweight framework of treated bamboo or specialized alloys would be built around and integrated with one or more mature sky kelp organisms. Gondolas for passengers and cargo would be suspended beneath, and propulsion might come from large, slow-turning propellers driven by steam engines, or even trained teams of wind riders on ornithopter-like contraptions guiding the sky kelp, using its natural responses to air currents and light. Travel by these living airships was not fast, but majestic and remarkably smooth. Imagine drifting silently over landscapes, the only sounds, The creak of the framework, the whisper of wind through the sky kelp's tendrils, and perhaps a faint organic sigh from the living gas bag itself. The societal impact would be enormous. Trade routes would develop through the skies with skyports, established on high plateaus or atop massive towers in cities. These ports would be incredible structures designed to moor and service the giant living airships, with gantries for loading and unloading and facilities for tending to the sky kelp's biological needs. Nations with favorable atmospheric conditions for sky kelp cultivation or access to wild herds would become aerial powers. Warfare would involve fleets of these slowly maneuvering giants, perhaps attempting to harpoon or ignite an enemy's sky kelp, or deploying aerial marines via long ropes. The science of aerobiology would be paramount. Understanding the lycoque, diseases, and atmospheric requirements of sky kelp would be critical. The aesthetics of this world would be profoundly different. Cities designed with clear aerial pathways, art celebrating the beauty of these giant floating life forms in a culture deeply connected to the rhythms of the sky. The sight of these immense organic dirigibles, their translucent bodies catching the sunlight, drifting silently overhead like a pod of peaceful sky whales, would be an utterly baffling and beautiful alternative to our own history of flight. A world where humanity learned to partner with life itself to conquer the skies. The very idea of puncturing these living gas bags for sport or war would add a layer of ecological and ethical complexity unknown to our timeline's aviators. Number 3. Clockwork Alexandria, the calculating heart of the Ptolemies. The Antikythera mechanism, an astonishingly complex ancient Greek annelid computer, hints at a technological path largely lost to our history. Now envision a world where this knowledge wasn't lost, but actively pursued and developed, particularly in the intellectual crucible of Alexandria under the later Ptolemaic pharaohs and subsequently under Roman rule. Instead of fading into obscurity, the principles behind such intricate clockwork devices flourished, transforming Alexandria into the calculating heart of the ancient world long before the digital age. In this timeline, the Library of Alexandria didn't just house scrolls, it housed workshops where master mechanicians, heirs to the Antikythera tradition, crafted increasingly sophisticated analog computational devices. These weren't powered by electricity, but by intricate systems of gears, levers, and calibrated weights or springs. Imagine administrative engines in government offices, complex clockwork arrays that could track census data, calculate taxes, and manage grain distribution for the sprawling Ptolemaic kingdom or Roman province. Officials would input data via a series of dials and levers, and the machine, after much whirring and clicking, would output results on engraved plates or via moving indicators. Astronomical calculations, the original purpose of the Antikythera device, reached new heights. Grand orreries, far more complex than anything in our timeline's Renaissance, would not only model the solar system with incredible precision but also predict eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and even assist in calendar reforms with unparalleled accuracy. These devices would be centerpieces in observatories and scholarly institutions, their polished bronze and intricate gear trains a testament to Alexandrian ingenuity. Perhaps these machines even helped navigators plot courses with greater certainty, aiding maritime trade and exploration within the Mediterranean and beyond. But the applications wouldn't stop at administration and astronomy. And magic engines used by philosophers to analyze syllogisms, or even early attempts at story-weaving machines in the Great Library, capable of combining narrative elements in novel ways based on input parameters, a very early, mechanical form of generative art. Public squares might feature large clockwork automata, performing reenactments of myths or displaying the time and astronomical events through complex moving figures, entertaining and educating the populace. The whirring and ticking of these mechanisms would become a familiar sound in the city's scholarly and governmental districts. The development of mathematics would be subtly different, perhaps focusing more on the geometry and mechanics needed to design these devices rather than abstract algebra. Craft of the mechanicos, or horologos, clockmaker, device maker, would be one of the most respected and highly skilled professions, requiring years of apprenticeship. Metallurgy and precision engineering with bronze, silver, and iron would be incredibly advanced for the era, driven by the need for durable and accurate components. While this clockwork revolution wouldn't lead to a steam age or an electrical one, it would create a society deeply reliant on sophisticated mechanical computation and automation. The decline of this tradition, perhaps if Alexandria faced a more devastating destruction, or if the knowledge became too esoteric and centralized, would then represent an even greater dark age for computational technology than in our own history. The sight of a Roman governor consulting a clanking, whirring bronze device before issuing a decree, or scholars debating around a clicking logic engine, would be a truly baffling glimpse into an ancient world that had mastered analog computation centuries, if not millennia, ahead of its time. Number 2. The Legion's Steam Sentry. Hero of Alexandria, in our timeline, described the Aeolipile, a simple steam-powered rotary engine, largely as a curiosity. But what if Roman military engineers, always pragmatic and seeking an edge, saw its potential not for broad industry, but for highly specific, terrifying applications? Imagine a Roman Empire where the legions marched not just with scutum and gladius, but were supported by and sometimes replaced by steam sentries and other steam-powered war machines. This wouldn't be a full-blown industrial revolution, but a militarized steam age, focused and brutal. Core technology would be improved, ruggedized versions of the Aeolipile, or perhaps early piston-driven steam engines, fueled by wood or coal. These engines, while inefficient by later standards, could generate significant power for specialized tasks. Quote, Roman engineers, masters of siegecraft, would be the first to adapt them. Picture vapor ballistae siege engines, where steam pressure, instead of twisted ropes, launched heavy bolts or stones with greater force and a more rapid firing rate. Or steam rams, battering rams augmented with a steam-driven piston to deliver devastating, repetitive blows against city gates. Most iconic, however, would be the ignis cumanus, or steam sentry. These could be semi-automated defensive emplacements along frontiers, like Hadrian's Wall or the Rhine. Imagine a bronze-clad, vaguely humanoid or beast-like structure, housing a small, high-pressure boiler. When triggered by tripwires or observers, it could unleash jets of scalding steam, terrifying sounds from steam whistles, or even launch small projectiles. These sentries wouldn't be true robots, but intimidating, partially automated deterrents, their metallic forms and hissing steam clouds becoming symbols of Roman technological terror. Perhaps mobile versions, clanking wheeled platforms, spewing steam and fire, were developed for battlefield use, breaking enemy formations through sheer psychological impact as much as actual damage. The logistics of supporting such machines would be immense. Legions would need dedicated cohorts of machineries or vapor smiths, highly skilled engineers and smiths to maintain the boilers, repair the mechanisms, and manage the fuel supply trains of wood or coal. Roman roads would see even heavier traffic, with wagons dedicated to fueling these steam guzzlers. Mines for coal, if that became the preferred fuel, would become even more critical strategic assets. The effect on Roman military doctrine would be significant. While the disciplined legionary remained central, these steam machines would offer new tactical possibilities, especially in sieges and defensive warfare. The psychological impact on barbarian tribes encountering these hissing, steaming metal behemoths would be profound, reinforcing the image of Rome as an almost supernatural power. Inside the empire, steam power might find limited application in gladiatorial games, e.g., steam-powered arena hazards, or in large construction projects like powering cranes for aqueducts or amphitheaters. But its primary development driver would remain military. This selective application of steam power, focused almost entirely on martial ends, would create a Roman Empire that looked and sounded different. The familiar tramp of sandals might be accompanied by the hiss of steam, the clang of metal mechanisms, and the acrid smell of burning fuel. It's a baffling divergence because it takes a technology we associate with widespread industrial change and narrows its focus to tools of control and conquest, making the Roman fist an even heavier, more mechanically menacing presence in the ancient world. The innovation wouldn't be about making life easier for the masses, but about making the legion more fearsome. Number 1. Ashurbanipal's Sonic Archive of Nineveh. The library of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh was one of the ancient world's wonders, a vast collection of cuneiform tablets preserving Mesopotamian knowledge. In our timeline, these clay tablets stored information through incised script. But now, consider a truly baffling technological leap. What if the Assyrians, alongside or even superseding cuneiform for certain high-value records, developed a method of sonic archiving? Imagine a library not just of written words, but of singing stones or resonant cylinders that held information, perhaps even recorded sounds or complex data, encoded within their crystalline or molecular structures, accessible only through specific sonic frequencies. The technology would be almost alien to our understanding of ancient capabilities. Perhaps Assyrian priests or keepers of vibrations, through generations of experimentation with acoustics, rare earths, and resonant materials, discovered that certain crystals or specially fired ceramic compounds could be imprinted with complex vibrational patterns. Using precisely tuned sound generators, maybe sophisticated lyres, specialized metallic gongs, or even focused vocal techniques, they could alter the internal structure of these archive stones at a microscopic level, encoding information far more densely than mere surface script. To read these stones, another set of tuned resonators would be used, causing the stone to emit faint, complex sound patterns or vibrations that trained scribes or listeners could interpret. The Library of Nineveh, in this reality, would be an even more mysterious place. Alongside shelves of tablets, there would be chambers filled with these resonant objects, some small as pebbles, others large, carefully shaped geodes or cylinders. The air might hum with faint, almost inaudible frequencies as the archive stones subtly interacted. Reading rooms would be soundproof chambers where listeners with intense concentration would use delicate instruments to coax the stored knowledge from the stones. Imagine them not just transcribing texts, but potentially hearing echoes of ancient voices, accounts of historical events spoken aloud, or even complex mathematical or astronomical data represented as tonal sequences. The implications are staggering. This would mean the Assyrians possessed a form of data, storage, and retrieval that was non-visual and incredibly advanced. It could store not just text, but nuances of speech, musical compositions, perhaps even encoded maps or diagrams translated into vibrational patterns. The destruction of Nineveh would then be an even greater catastrophe, as not only were tablets shattered, but the unique knowledge of creating and reading these sonic archives and the archives themselves could be largely lost or rendered inert, leaving only puzzling inert stones for later archaeologists to ponder. The existence of such a technology would require a completely different branch of Assyrian science to flourish, a deep, practical understanding of acoustics, material science, and resonant frequencies that simply doesn't appear in our historical record. Specialized artisans would craft the archive stones, and guilds of listeners would train for years to master the art of sonic interpretation. The very concept of literacy would expand to include oral and vibrational comprehension. This baffling divergence places a technology akin to a rudimentary or data storage thousands of years before its time. Hidden within the heart of an ancient empire, its secrets largely lost to the clamor of ensuing history, making the silence of those stones in our timeline all the more profound.